conspiracy to commit for hire and use of a machine gun in a violent crime resulting in a death. The most serious charge carries up to the death penalty if convicted.
For hire is the unalive penalty, and that's the death penalty. You know what I mean? That's the ultimate crime you could commit.
They've picked up, arrested who they believe are the shooters. They've identified, they have video of the shooting, and they've identified the individuals they say are the shooters.
It appears Lil Durk is now locked in for good this time with no easy way out in sight. Rumor has it there's a video making the rounds online supposedly showing his reaction to the death sentence, and if the whispers are true, his reaction is every bit as intense as you'd expect.
Conspiracy to commit murder for hire and use of a machine gun in a violent crime resulting in a death. The most serious charge carries up to the death penalty if convicted.
So recent updates suggest that the Chicago rapper could be facing either the death penalty or life in prison with the murder for hire charge involving him and 5 other suspects. Now looming over him, even DJ Academics joined the conversation, dropping a single-word post, "Wow," alongside a screenshot from a tweet by a reporter who claimed he was the sole media representative in the courtroom when Durk's associates were brought in, noting that prosecutors stated these charges could carry a death sentence if convicted and a minimum of 30 years behind bars. Naturally, this news set off a firestorm online, with fans split between those who think he might be guilty and those who remain loyal and convinced of his innocence. One commenter pointed out how dire Durk's situation seems, comparing it to rapper Young Thug's case, saying 30 years minimum. He's in a worse position than Thugga is, while another added that Bro had a master plan planned out and failed miserably, but loyalists came through with a different narrative, with one saying, "No way in hell Durk is speaking to anybody directly," about a hit. "I don't believe it till I see or hear it," and others doubting accusations that he tried to flee, asserting that such claims are just a tactic to keep him from getting bail, painting him as a societal threat. This whirlwind of reactions didn't stop with fans, as even some of Durk's former associates seemed to be stepping back. However, some celebrities are seen jumping in too. Former champion boxer Claressa Shields voiced her support on Twitter with, "I'm sick for Lil Durk," only to get hit with swift backlash, prompting her to clarify her intention, saying, "I don't condone any type of crime or violence. I feel sick for Lil Durk because with all that potential, he still couldn't let the streets go, and now it's costing him his freedom." With Durk's history of involvement in community initiatives like Neighborhood Heroes and connections with high-profile figures, it stirred up a lot of questions about whether he's being fairly treated or unfairly targeted on O25. Chicago's mayor, Brandon Johnson, addressed Durk's recent $150,000 campaign donation amid questions about its ethical implications, explaining that he's focused on facts, not emotions, and doesn't plan to rush to judgment on Durk's case when asked directly about keeping the donation. Johnson responded, "If you're asking me to judge a black man before a full trial, I hope you understand why it's not my position to decide someone's fate prematurely." Meanwhile, Broadview's Mayor Thompson weighed in on Facebook, saying while the American system of justice grants everyone the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law in the village of Broadview, the court of public opinion of residents has even higher moral and ethical standards of behavior, and our public partners must also reflect the same uncompromising standards demanded by our residents, given the news that Lil Durk Banks has been arrested in Florida and charged with MDER for hire. The village of Broadview is withdrawing our honorary key to the village granted to Durk, and is terminating our partnership agreement with his youth organization Neighborhood Heroes Foundation. As mayor, protecting Broadview's interests and upholding the values of residents is job number one, making it clear that Durk's legal troubles are beginning to take a toll on his broader community connections.
I don't operate in feelings, I operate in truth and justice. And again, I don't know all the circumstances around.
For a little background, last Thursday saw federal authorities in Chicago taking serious action down in Houston, where they nabbed 5 people tied to the murder of Quando Rondo's cousin, Lil Pub. Those arrested include Kayvon London, Grant DeAndre, and Donald Wilson. Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa. And now all of them are up against major charges, like conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and even using a machine gun in a fatal crime include
conspiracy to commit murder for hire and use of a machine gun in a violent crime resulting in a death. The most serious charge carries up to the death penalty if convicted.
Prosecutors seem pretty convinced these suspects are connected to the OTF crew, with some seriously telling evidence piling up. Supposedly, flights and rental cars for this group were booked on an OTF-linked credit card, and whispers are going around that an unnamed OTF member promised big music opportunities to anyone willing to go after Quando Rondo, which is pretty wild if true. This whole chain of events traces back to August 19, 2022, when Quando Rondo and his team were ambushed at a Beverly Grove gas station in LA. While Quando made it out unscathed, his cousin, Savia Robinson, tragically lost his life. Some are saying this hit was direct payback for the 2020 King of King Lil Durk's close friend, who was shot by a member of QU's crew during a brawl outside an Atlanta club, and to make things more complicated, charges against V's alleged shooter. Timothy L. Tim leaks were later dropped, which some think might have pushed Durk to take justice into his own hands. You walked up to King Von to DAP him up. Can you take us through that night? Things really started heating up, though, when talk began circulating that one of the suspects in this whole saga might have started cooperating with the cops. Rumor has it one of them spilled everything, hoping to sidestep a 12-year sentence, which ultimately led to Durk's own arrest. The moment that news broke, fans and bloggers went wild with theories about who the supposed snitch could be. First up, fans were quick to bring up rapper King Y's name, especially given his history of comments about Durk to the police, though Yell has been super clear that he's no snitch.
Some paperwork. Talk about how you were getting arrested and they say you named a whole bunch of people.
Then attention shifted to Brick Baby, who recently spoke out, sharing that Quando Rondo had actually reached out to him, thinking he'd somehow been set up. Fans spotted Brick Baby on No Jumper, where he reacted to Durk's arrest with what some thought was a suspiciously nervous look, only adding more fuel to the gossip fire.
Like, who died?
You can't say that no more.
Oh, because of FBG Cash? Or who?
Nah, because...
But the twist didn't stop there. Rumors started flying about a possible third informant in the mix, and people are saying it's none other than OTF Jam. Apparently, he's the prime suspect, and the one who may have tipped off the cops. And here's the kicker. There are even claims he wore a wire at some point, which is a huge twist if true.
Look into OTF Jam.
I think we looked into him already.
He's the one that ate the cheese.
On top of everything, leaked police files started circulating online, only tightening the threads connecting Durk to the suspects. Out of the 5 men allegedly involved in the revenge hit, 3 of them, DD, Voney, and Boogie, had their mugshots splashed everywhere, showing their close bond with King Von. These guys were practically inseparable, with Voney and Durk often seen together in photos, hitting the jewelry shops and just hanging out. So their deep connections to both Vow and Durk are only turning up the heat on top of everything. Leaked police files started circulating online, only tightening the threads connecting Durk to the suspects. Out of the 5 men allegedly involved in the revenge hit, 3 of them, DD, Voney, and Boogie, had their mugshots splashed everywhere, showing their close bond with King Von. These guys were practically inseparable, with V often seen together in photos, hitting the jewelry shops and just hanging out. So their deep connections to both Vow and Durk are only turning up the heat on this situation, which is looking like one of the most intense legal storms Durk's ever faced.
Hey, big fan. We just looked at him. Man. Let's go over there. You got to be what up, bro?
Boss, you good? My boy. Let's go.
Durk's rocky history with the law isn't exactly a secret, and the way things evolved after King Von's death seemed to set a darker tone for him. Back in 2019, he and Vaughn were actually looking at some serious charges in Atlanta, accused of attempted murder after allegedly firing shots and robbing a man, though those charges were eventually dropped in 2022, which led him avoid jail time. Yet even with that behind him, it seems like trouble's always been just a step away from 2011 to 2016. Durk's had more than his fair share of legal run-ins, shaping not just his personal life, but his career too often in ways fans may not immediately realize. Since as early as 17, he's been grinding to survive, doing what he could, just to get by, putting in the work to cover the basics like food, yet somehow always finding himself up against endless obstacles.
Boy Durk first caught a charge. Life was tough on the streets of Inglewood, you know. Myself, Durk, and some of the family used to live at his grandma's house, but we didn't have nothing.
Eventually, all that frustration combined with so few options really backed him into a corner, leading Durk to make some heavy, life-altering decisions, feeling like he had nowhere else to turn. He dipped into crime just to survive. And pretty soon, he found himself joining up with the Black Disciples, one of the most notorious gangs in Chicago. And around that same time, life threw him a whole new challenge with the arrival of his first child, making it feel like the weight on his shoulders doubled overnight and turning survival into an intense daily struggle. Joining the Black Disciples set off a chain of events that would lead to his first big brush with the law in October 2011. It started out like any other night, until he was driving along, one hand on the wheel, a bottle in the other, when the cops pulled him over and a quick search turned up a loaded gun. In the car leading to his arrest, he got out on bond, but not long after, trouble found him again in 2012, putting him back in jail for 3 months, which gave him a lot of time to think and start questioning the path he was on.
I was like, man, I'm gonna stay out the streets. And I was like, I just got signed. But being in Chicago, man, I don't know. Wrong place, wrong.
When he got out, Durk seemed ready for a fresh start and turned to rap, pouring all his energy into it and using platforms like MySpace and YouTube to get his music out there and build a fan base. And it wasn't long before things started to click. His early singles like Sneak Dissing and I'm a Hit of began making waves, catching the eye of big names like Chief Keef and French Montana. And soon his career started to pick up momentum as his music moved beyond Chicago and started to reach a wider audience. By 2013, he was on fire, releasing 4 mixtapes that year alone. And the buzz around him was big enough that his crew, Only the Family, landed a deal with DeJam Recordings, marking the start of something huge rolling. Stone even listed his 2013 mixtape as one of the year's best, making it feel like he was finally getting on the right track. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, he hit another roadblock when he got caught with a loaded .4 caliber gun on South Green Street in Chicago. Luckily, he managed to post a hefty $1,000 bond, and his lawyer went Allen, submitting 9 affidavits from witnesses to back his innocence, with one witness even stepping forward to claim the gun, helping him dodge yet another major legal hurdle and allowing him to keep pushing forward on the path he'd begun to carve in the music industry. So word on the street is that right now Durk's being held without bond. And while there's still a lot we don't know about the details of this case, everyone's on edge, waiting to see how it all unfolds. Fans are keeping their fingers crossed, speculating and hoping for updates as this story plays out, because with so many twists already, it feels like this might just be the beginning of something even bigger.